When I was buying music in the late 1980s, the portable format of choice was the compact cassette. I've still got all the compact cassettes I bought during that time. This is just a selection of them. Who can forget Dr. Ice the Mic Stalker with his DJ Hospital Hell? Or how about the classic Outlaw Posse with My Afro's on Fire? Of course, I've got some more traditional artists as well, people like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Here's their first album, Rock the House, with a very young-looking Will Smith there, years before he did the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now, I thought about converting these cassettes a few years ago, and I got one of these converter type things. You'll have seen them around. The idea is you put the cassette in it, attach it up to your computer, and it makes it into an MP3. Now, a bit of a non-starter this. I tried it with one cassette. It just made one giant long album, which I then, or one file I should say, which I then have to split up into individual tracks and name them all manually. That's more trouble than I'm prepared to go to. And to be honest, it's only ever going to sound as good as something recorded through a cheap plasticky cassette player. And I'd lose all that art off the boxes and things. So all the cassettes went into the loft at one point, but recently I got them all back out again when I bought this cassette player. Pretty nice one. It's second-hand off eBay. It does all the things that you'd want it to. It's got track skipping, both-way playing, auto reverse. You got Dolby, HX Pro, B and C, all that kind of stuff. Nice little player. But the problem with it isn't really in keeping with the rest of my retro equipment, which I've been collecting over the last year or so. So I decided to get a new compact cassette player. I say new, from 1979/1980. It's this JVC model here, the JVC KD-A7. I'll show you why I chose this particular one. Yes, it's the over-the-top and completely unnecessary spectrum analyzer on this machine that attracted me to it. To get into my collection of equipment, something's got to stand out a bit, be a little bit unusual, and this definitely fits into that category. It's at that period where they're moving over from the analog needles to the digital displays, so we've got both on this machine. We've got the analog needles against a black background, a little bit hard to read those really, and then of course we've got this gaudy early 80s type digital display, but I don't think you'll find another cassette player with anything this bright or flashy on the front of it. There are some with smaller VU meters, but not as ridiculous as this one. So there you go, that's why I picked this particular machine. That and the fact it's silver as well, it fits in with most of the equipment I've got. So nice machine really. Never going to sound as good as a Nakamichi or something like that, but maybe those don't have the nice little LEDs behind the play, pause, record buttons like this one does, or maybe they do, I don't know. I just like the way this one looks. So audio cassettes never going to sound that great. I mean, I've got this collection of cassettes here. They were never recorded onto the best quality cassettes. They were always on the sort of standard quality, not chrome and things, so they're only ever going to sound as good as a compact cassette. And this one, to be honest, it sounds fine to me, as good as I need them to sound. We've got all these nice little buttons on here, or switches I should say, so overall, a very attractive machine. We've got a bit of a angry eject mechanism on here that just flies out, and that door has obviously fallen off at some time and someone's glued it on, but slightly diagonal. But other than that, it's a pretty nice looking machine. So with the purchase of this compact cassette player, I think I've assembled all the components that I want in my HiFi system now. Now, I've done some videos about some of these things before. In my channel you'll find a video about my reel-to-reel player, that's the Akai GX625, and I've also done another video that features the compact cassette player, the Philips DCC910. And then there was another video I did about the brand new, but old, 8-track recorder that I bought, the Pioneer HR99. And you'll see the Sony EL5 L cassette player in one of my videos. However, I haven't mentioned vinyl records. I have got some records. I've been buying quite a few recently as well. It seems to be making a bit of a comeback, vinyl. So I've got a new record player. It's like X-Demo or something, but it's called the Pro-Ject or Pro-Ject, I don't know, RPM 1.3 Genie. I just got it because it looks nice really, and it sounds good as well. And then the speakers that I'm using are these Mistral DT-3075. They actually came with a little amplifier that I had before, but I swapped it out with the amp and kept the speakers because I like them. We've got these Sony MDR1R silver headphones with nice brown leather on them. Those are really gorgeous, they just fit in with all the other things I've got. Now I've got a DVD player in here, Pioneer DV600AV. This is a few years old, it's my old DVD player, but I've kept it in here because it plays Super Audio CDs, SACDs, as well as normal CDs of course. So I don't use it for DVDs at all, but it's a good way of getting a cheap SACD player, because if you look for one on its own, a standalone SACD player that isn't a DVD player, they cost a fortune. And for similar reasons, I've also got a Blu-ray player in here, the Samsung BDD7000. This was a very unreliable player that was withdrawn from the market after only a year or so on sale. But the reason I've got this is because of this standard AV out. It's also got the usual HDMI and optical out, but those won't plug into my amp, whereas the standard AV out lets me plug in standard phono left and right leads, so I can use it as a Blu-ray audio player, which is what this is. You might not have seen these, they're not very popular. This is the Rolling Stones compilation, 50 tracks on here, and that's over 3 hours worth of music. The reason I like this little player is you can front load it, which is very important to me. It's small as well, but of course the main reason is those standard AV outs, which basically don't seem to feature on hardly any Blu-ray players nowadays. They don't give you standard def out. This particular Blu-ray album is £11.49 on Amazon at the moment, and that includes a little thing in the packet which lets you download the album as 320 kilobits a second MP3 files as well. So you've got the MP3 album, which you can do whatever you want with, and you've also got the high definition Blu-ray audio album for less than if you just bought the MP3s on Amazon. Now perhaps the most important component in this hi-fi is the amplifier, or receiver in this case, which is a Pioneer SX3600. It looks gorgeous, but it's also got the features that modern amps don't have, like a built-in radio, which still works as good as it ever did. But the things that I really use it for are the fact that it's got a phono input, which means I can plug my record player straight into it, rather than having to send it through a separate phono preamp, and therefore having to use up another plug socket as well, and perhaps introducing hum. And then we've got the auxiliary here where I've got everything else plugged into that. So I've had to put a switch box on that because I've got so many different things. This is just a standard phono switch box, doesn't use power, it's like mechanical. I can jump between my different sources with that. But perhaps the most important thing, we've got 2 tape outs. The first one of those goes to this box here, which means I can record anything on any piece of equipment I've got. The second one is going to a Sonos. It's got a Sonos Connect hidden around the back here somewhere, and that means that any of my components that I've got here can go through the Sonos and be played elsewhere in the house. And I've got this Sonos Play 1 in the conservatory, so I can put a record on in the lounge, listen to it in the conservatory, and of course I could put more of those around my house if I wanted. And I've still got that ridiculous tacky VU meter that I did a video about last year. So with that, that's my hi-fi completed. I don't plan on adding mini discs to this because I had those when they were out and they don't hold much fascination for me, but I've got something here from every decade from the 1970s up to the current date. If, like me, you've still got all your old cassettes somewhere, I'd suggest you give up on that idea that one day you're going to digitise them, because it's not going to happen and it's not worth the effort. What I'd suggest instead, go on eBay, have a look at compact cassette players. You'll find some very high-end models from the 70s and 80s that are going for a very small amount of money. Pick one up, stick it in your hi-fi system and enjoy the retro nostalgia. But that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.